Tottenham finally have a new manager. It is Ange Postecoglou, formerly now the Celtic manager, steps into the breach of the Premier League. He's an experienced manager, despite a lot of people not seeming to know too much about him. 57 years old. He's been managing since 1996, and he's sort of trotted around the world. He steps into this job after the oddest search for a manager. Or is it just the longest? I don't know. From Tottenham's point of view. All, of course, starting with that press conference from Antonio Conte, where he decided to blow up Spurs' season. And now, after making their way through possibly Nagelsmann, Arne Slot, several other names, Pochettino, they definitely had a chat with Pochettino, I reckon. They have found their destination when it comes to their manager, Postecoglou. Initial thoughts, Debate, how are we feeling?
Firstly, I wonder how he feels. Because he would have seen all the rumours of all the managers they went for, and then they landed at him. Yeah. So I wonder if he's like, well, did they actually want me? But actually, of all the names that were mentioned, him and probably Pochettino are the two where I was like, they probably make sense. Nagelsmann needs the right tools, probably wasn't going to work. Pochettino, I mean, he's taken time out and come back, so you don't know what he's going to come back like. So it kind of sort of made sense to end up here. It's just taken a long time, which kind of leaves everyone thinking, what are Spurs up to? They have to get multiple things sorted out. Manager, director of football, Harry Kane, before they can actually plan for a season. It all lands on his lap. So he's got a hell of a job to do, which we will go into. But I think it's a good appointment. I think it's a nice appointment.
Yeah, I do as well. I really like it. I think the thing with him is Tottenham have sort of been ridiculed for a long time. And with Conte coming in, or Mourinho, these sort of old messiahs, they come in and you got the feeling that they thought they were better than the club. Mm-hmm. And they were sort of going, look, hurry up, trying to drag them up to them, whilst also playing turgid football. What I really love about this is Postecoglou, there's a lot of narrative around him being not up to it. And that's based around the fact that he is Australian.
And he's come from the Scottish League.
Scottish League come from Australia. And he come from the Scottish League, yes. And that for me is just nonsense. Pathetic, basically. And actually, if you're sort of well-travelled like he is, and you've got experience like he is, and you've dealt with different personalities like he has, I think that makes it far more interesting. And again, in terms of being aligned with how people are kind of looking at Tottenham. Look, being a sort of a fan of a club, or the media that surrounds it, there is a lot of throwing stones, and Spurs have to catch a lot of stones, right? So what I really like about Postecoglou is he came into that Celtic job and no one thought he should get it. He said himself, I was seen as a bit of a joke, but the Celtic fans, wrapped their arms around me and off we went. And it then created a feeling of let's kind of prove the world wrong. And I think that's a really powerful emotion. And that is exactly what Tottenham fans, players, everyone associated with the club needs right now, because they've got this albatross of the trophy thing, around them all the time. And I think you sometimes need someone who's got that energy, positivity and vision to lead you through the woods. And without arrogance, with humility. And that's what I really, really like about him.
100%. And he aligns with Tottenham's philosophy, or like how Tottenham operated over the last maybe couple of decades, where they don't spend a lot of money and they want to play great football. The fans expect to play great football, when they kind of sold their soul when they brought in Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte, managers who have won a lot because they were pursuing that elusive trophy. But they didn't align with what Spurs are as a side. And like you say, maybe they thought they were too good for Spurs, whereas Postecoglou is an aspiring manager that wants to bring out the best in any side he goes to. And if you're Spurs, if you're a Spurs fan, you have to look on this appointment with optimism, because this has been a change of approach in terms of the last couple of appointments from Daniel Levy. It's about giving him the keys to the kingdom, though. His sides have always played good football. If you look at the Celtic side, look at the Yokohama side, if you look at the Brisbane Roar side, who people call Barcelona because they played such great football. He's a manager that if you give him time, you give him the keys to the kingdom, those two entities in terms of Tottenham and Postecoglou can align. And it can be, like you said, how Celtic Celtic fans threw their arms around him. It's like, let's do this together. Spurs have been the butt of the joke for how many years now? And this is a manager that hasn't been fancied by a lot of fans who have not watched a lot of Scottish football or watched Japanese football or Australian football. But this is a manager that I feel, if given the right time and the right players, and if Daniel Levy allows him to operate the way he wants to operate, there's no reason why this can't be successful.
So here's my thing though. What do Tottenham fans actually expect? Because that was the problem with Conte. They were fifth, I think, when Conte exploded and the fans were saying this isn't good enough. Mourinho was there and they were like, this isn't good enough. Before that, it was Nuno. They were like, he's not good enough.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of discourse on the timeline where people are going, this man's not good enough either. So what do they actually want? Do they want to win a title?
Well, I think that is the biggest stumbling block for him, because you naturally go, because I think this is a victory for optimism.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to be a cynic,
That is such a James Allcott line.
might make it my Twitter bio. It is, because cynicism hasn't worked. Tottenham went, Daniel Levy went, and I don't think you can have a go at him for it. He went, let's just go get a winner and get this done. Right? I haven't. Let's forget how it feels. Let's just have the output. Mourinho, Conte. And one stat that guaranteed, remember this, will be thrown at Postecoglou at some point next season is that, you think you're doing well? You haven't got... Conte had more points than you at this stage of the season. That is inevitable. Yeah. But what's important here is how it feels.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to really excite the fan base. I think he will reset the idea of how they play as well, because that's a big part of this. When you're playing boring football, you better win. And I think what might happen here is they might have to kind of go backwards to go forwards. I also think a really nice thing in terms of the fit here is the fact that they have to rebuild. They might even essentially be called a reset, and Harry Kane might be on his way out. But the style of play that you have with Postecoglou, it is high intensity, it's pressing, they want the ball, they want to create chances. It's going to be good to watch. It's going to be exciting. So even if the points aren't there in that comparison next season, do you feel like you're kind of getting somewhere? But as you say, the stumbling block will be for a club that actually, the one excuse that you can't kind of give him next year is European football. They won't have that, which I think is another positive for them. He'll have a whole week to try and get across an ideology towards this group of players who have not been playing this style of football ever, or it's not since Poch, and to be honest, it's not even like Poch's really, but in terms of pressing. So with the change in the squad, with Harry Kane maybe leaving, the problem will be if people turn on him to allow him to get through some of the bumps to get where he wants to get them. Yeah. Do you think he'll be afforded that time?
Yeah, he will be, because where the Spurs go from here, really, I know it's taken a long time to appoint a manager, but they need to understand the realism of the situation, especially with the dynamics of the top 6/top 7, where the emergence of Newcastle, Liverpool are going to be back next season. Spurs are going to be in and around the Europa League places in terms of the Premier League. And if it goes really well, then challenging for the top 4. But that's where they need to understand where they're at the moment. This is a time, like you said, for a reset. And they have to find their competitive advantage, because Spurs are not a side that are blessed with infinite funds. They haven't got money to go and pay 100 mil for a player. They have to find where they're going to gain their advantage. And that's with Postecoglou in terms of his player ID, going to find players from teams that are not fancy. They're going to Asia to scout and finding the likes of Myogos or Kyogos or Maedas, and finding those players that are hidden gems and turning them into superstars. And that's what I think that Spurs had previously done quite well. When you look at their glory days under Pochettino, when they went and got Dele Alli, who was heavily coveted, but he was a player playing in League One. Yeah. When they went and found a Christian Eriksen, or they went and found players that weren't as heralded as players that they maybe want to go and get, rather than go and spend 60 million on Richarlison, go and find somebody who actually fits your system and fits your style of play. And that's what Postecoglou can bring. It's about giving him time, and I think with disappointment and the type of manager that he is and how he gets fans on side, they will give him time and it will succeed.
I think the fans will enjoy him as well. Like, he speaks really well.
Yeah, he's good fun.
They've had a lot of managers over the last countless number of years who don't speak very well to the media, don't speak very well to the fans. He brings this feeling of like togetherness with him, and I think the Spurs fans need that. They're so divided because some of them want Daniel Levy gone, some of them are done with Kane, some of them want to keep Kane, some of them are sort of like we just need something to get us going again. Why don't we clear out the whole team and restart and reshuffle? You need a manager who can speak the language of the fans, and he's done that very well at Celtic. So I think they'll enjoy him. And Spurs fans, if they're watching this, probably going, "Oh, we want to finish top 4 next season." You might have to allow that for next season.
That's it.
Just enjoy the journey for now.
Yeah.
Arsenal did that with Arteta. In all fairness, they were horrible under Arteta in the first 12 to 18 months, but you could see the feeling was good. He was speaking to the fans. The atmosphere was improving.
But the Arteta thing, they were placated by the fact that he won an FA Cup in his first season. I think that's what Spurs fans really, really like. That's a stick that people used to beat Spurs with, and I think that affects them a lot, and that's the reason why they're
Spurs have to do Spurs now. Forget about all this other stuff.
Such a great point.
If you're going to lose Harry Kane for 100 million or whatever it is, your goalkeeper's heading off as well. The way he likes to play with inverted fullbacks and a number 10 at least, you need 2 of those or 3 of those. It's going to take time. Spurs just have to do what Spurs are meant to do this season, and then think about it in a year's time. Spurs are trying to advance a 10-year journey in 1 year by getting Conte or Mourinho. That clearly hasn't worked.
Yeah.
Just do your own thing.
Take your time, and a lot of players have to unlearn the habits that they learned on these managers that were playing 3 at the back, were playing very pragmatic football. Postecoglou is the opposite of those managers, so it's a lot of retraining and relearning for those Spurs players that are already there, and assimilating for the new players that he wants to bring in. So it's going to take time, but they will get there.
Yeah, I think I think you're so right. They need to be able to see the truth next season, because what will say Kane isn't there, and they've spent 90 million. But they've bought a load of sort of younger guys who are 20 mil each, and the 10 mil one. And then I think it might not look, when you look at the table, like they are progressing, but I think they kind of need to kind of stand still or go backwards to then move forwards, because they need a clear vision and they need to play attacking football to get people excited, to get the fans on board, and to get that trophy, which is the thing that obviously has eluded them for so long. But yeah, I think the final thing to say is that Celtic fans adore this guy. Absolutely adore this guy. And I think that is a very good barometer for a manager. And importantly, he is a bit older, so I think he will deal with the pressure quite well. Some people go, "Oh, he hasn't been in the Premier League." Celtic, that is high pressure.
Yeah.
That is high pressure, and he's succeeded there. Well, we quite like him. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments down below. How will Postecoglou get on at Spurs? And here's a question for you. Will he be the manager this time next season? Let us know.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.